Let me just get something.
All right.
I thought I had.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge. And I think we will ask our soon-to-be chairman, who recently appointed, Joanne Waskey, to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
If we could remain standing for a minute, please, and just recognize a moment of silence for the tragedy that happened in our town on Tuesday night. We lost 5 residents in a very bad fire, so if we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. Today is Thursday, November 18th, 2021. A couple discussion items on our agenda today. The first one being a major industrial subdivision called Calverton Industrial Subdivision.
Sam, would you like me from the podium or from the desk?
The podium's fine if you're comfortable there.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
This is an industrial subdivision application known as the Calverton Industrial Subdivision, also commonly referred to as OSTAT. It's located at 3511 Middle Country Road in Riverhead, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 117, Block 2, lots 11 and 13. I know that Greg Bergman had raised a question about a third lot number, but there is only those 2 lot numbers. For simplicity, it's the property immediately adjacent to the Splish Splash to the west. So if everybody knows where Splish Splash is, it's just a vacant property to the west of that. It's a 130.9 acre site zoned industrial A, and there are currently a number of dilapidated buildings on the property. You have a couple of sketch plans with you. This is actually really the first step in the whole application review process. And the sketch plans that you have before you are merely for discussion purposes. They're not starting the sketch plan process of the subdivision. What we're doing today is beginning the SECRA review process, because under SECRA you're supposed to initiate it as soon in the process as you can. Given the property size and the potential impacts of over 130 acres of industrially zoned land, which is well over 1 million square feet of potential development, this is classified as a type 1 action under SECRA. And we've listed a couple of the involved agencies that we're going to be referring the application out to. You're not making a SECRA determination today. This is only for doing the referrals to the involved agencies. So you're classifying it as a type 1 action because it meets the thresholds, and then we're going to be referring it to all the other involved agencies. The access is proposed from Middle Country Road. However, given the size and magnitude of the project, we're looking at the future possibility of having direct access from the Long Island Expressway. The subject property is not located within the Riverhead School District, so that's going to require an extension by the town boards who serve as the Water District Commissioners. The property is also not located in the sewer district, so they're looking at doing an on-site treatment facility. The property is located in Groundwater Water Management Zone 3, which has a sanitary flow of 300 gallons of flow per day, which is a total of 39,270 gallons per day. There are some potential sensitive properties pursuant to SHPO for archaeological sensitivity. There are zoning. Obviously, we don't know what the zoning is going to be at this point because all we're doing right now is taking a look at SECRA at this point. However, one major part of the zoning that needs to be looked at from the outset is that 15% of the area of the lot size has to be remained contiguous landscaped area, and there are significant woodlands on the southern portion of the property, and we recommend that those areas be preserved to the greatest extent possible. There are 3 mapped wetland areas. Those really need to be field verified by the applicant. And again, those are just touching on very preliminary issues regarding the proposed subdivision. We're just initiating the SECRA process today, doing the 30-day lead agency coordination. At the conclusion of the 30 days, it's assumed that the planning board is going to assume lead agency, And we've already spoken with the applicant, who is prepared that the application will be issued a positive declaration, which will require an environmental impact statement be prepared. So Greg, David Wortman is here from VHB, if you have any questions.
Okay, so we eventually need to determine which sketch plan we prefer, correct?
You're going to take a look at that through the EIS process. It's a little bit different from just doing the sketch plan, because the potential impact of the lot configuration really needs to be vetted out through an environmental impact statement. Is where you put the lots, where the access is going to be, all of that's going to have an impact directly on, for example, road access, for example, Middle Country Road, water extension. That's going to have a direct impact. So where and how those infrastructure improvements are made really need to be vetted out through environmental impacts process, not just through a sketch plan process.
Okay. I mean, in looking at the sketch plans that you provided, or the applicant provided, I don't know, a lot of it is wooded, you said, and there's a lot of clearing proposed?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a concern right off the start.
Yep.
If I could clarify, I'm sorry, Mr. Murphy,
Hold on, you can't, you guys speak. Why don't you come up and introduce yourself to the board?
thank you very much. Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, thank you for having me today. My name is David Wortman with the firm VHB. VHB had prepared these sketch plans before you today. To clarify, most of the subject property is currently in use as a sod farm, and so most of it is cleared. There is a portion towards the southeast corner of the site that Mr. Murphy referred to that contains natural areas. He recommends that those be maintained in order to meet that contiguous 15% minimum at least. And the sketch plans all do accommodate that. But as far as clearing goes, there'll be minimal clearing. There's some natural vegetation, and it's kind of a patch near the north end along the Route 25 frontage, but otherwise the parcel's otherwise cleared currently.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
And so in the layouts, I don't know, I would kind of like to see more of a buffer from Middle Country Road built in on those the frontage lots myself. What type of landscaping, I guess we can talk about later, but that was one thing that I noticed. And also, I mean, we could decide as a board which layout we like better, but I think, we should reach out to perhaps the fire department, who's going to have to protect this, and see what layout works for them as far as, how these roads are cut in and the turning radiuses for their fire trucks. They should really be involved with the process too at the right time. You mentioned future access to the Long Island Expressway. So that would be westbound only, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
we looked at trying to see if there's any way to get entrance into it, and it would be either a flyover or an underpass. And if you do the underpass, David, if I'm correct, you would have to also go across the railroad tracks, and it's problematic to try to do that.
Okay. So it would only be westbound only. That means that there would be more of a strain on Edwards Avenue and Route 25 to get to this site.
Correct.
Which we're already under review for the one further west in Calverton, and the state hasn't even broken ground on that yet to do that intersection, so that's going to be another issue for the board to consider going forward. You mentioned the water and the sewer. As far as the water goes, I mean, I know we've talked about, many meetings, the situation with the water district and the water supply. At what point, I'm sure it'll come up, further on in the discussions, can the water district service this area? I mean, I think we still haven't had that question answered for the subdivision, further west in Calverton. And also, as far as the sewer, it sounds like they've shown property to have a sewer treatment plant on site. So, what kind of, level of treatment, the discharge into the ground or aquifer, what level of treatment are they gonna have, and what's actually gonna be discharged? What's the capture zone of that area? What's the groundwater flow of that area? All of those questions are eventually gonna need to be answered. You know, also, as far as traffic, and I'm sure the state will get involved with this, but, you know, summertime with split splash in operation, you know, how are we gonna mitigate traffic there? I mean, that intersection now, on the hot summer days and weekends, is horrible
Yeah.
for cars getting in and out of there. So, you know, how are we gonna address that? You know, is there a potential for the splish splash parking to use the exit to go west on the expressway?
I think the traffic intersection that we looked at is so problematic, it may, given the project size,
Who would you have to
Yep.
go, who would you have to get approval from to get onto the expressway?
DOT.
DOT?
They're acting
New York
on
State?
behalf of the state. Middle Country Road is such a problematic intersection, as you said now, Stan, and having another intersection here, which would not be signalized because the Splish Blast intersection's analyzed, we gotta look at some way of like maybe combining those with a service road or something, because you really have to have a. What's that?
Access off of River Road? Because I know there's access on that lot now.
No, because you got the LIE and then,
Yeah, but there's actually an access point there. I walked that property a few months ago, and there on River Road, there's a gate, and then
yeah, we'll take a look at it. But the whole access is a critical part to the design of this.
I mean, just off the top, those are the things that come to mind. I don't know, does the board have any other comments or questions?
I have some.
Okay, Joe.
On your maps, you have 3 wetlands. Do you know the size of them?
Has David, already gone up there yet?
Sure, yeah, so the VHB's wetland scientist has already walked this site with those maps in hand to field verify whether they're present or not, and have reviewed the original source of that data to understand how those came to be on the town's own map. None are shown on the DEC's freshwater wetlands map, but of course they do appear on the town's map, and so they were investigated. Of those 3, there is one that's physically present there. It meets the minimum requirements for being defined as a wetland, and we totally acknowledge that. But if you were to walk the site, I don't know that you would describe it that way, you know, to the sort of a common view of it, because this is an area that is surrounded by active farm use, and it really serves as a place for the runoff to go from irrigation. So it's not really productive as a wetland. With that said, we still do acknowledge that it meets that criteria, and what the plan before you as a concept plan proposes is that within or adjacent to some of those areas to be preserved, that a similar or even potentially larger size wetland would be constructed there, one that could be ecologically beneficial as a
Well,
wetland.
that's what I was getting at, because you did say, that it did say in the review that you possibly might be constructing. So-
Correct, that's right.
And would that mean you would abandon the other 3, or 2?
There's only one present, physically present today. And so I believe the planning department has correctly pointed out to the applicant and its team that there is a process for updating that map. And so we would, of course, go through that process so that the town could confirm the presence or absence of those wetlands, and we could all come to agreement as to what's there before then going on to how do we, you know, mitigate and accommodate and result in something beneficial from that perspective.
Have you given thought to stormwater and how you're going to handle it?
We have, and again, being a concept plan, there hasn't been a formal drainage plan prepared yet, but as Mr. Murphy explained, it's more than likely that this will go through a comprehensive EIS process, and stormwater management will, of course, be addressed throughout that analysis.
What's the concept of development of the site? Because it's
Sure.
rather bowling alley side, not really, but, you know, it's a
You're right.
long north-south. And would you be developing, let's say, the sites nearest 25 first, and then work your way south?
Right, yeah, I think like a sort of a phasing concept, yeah, that's something that we'd have to present and allow the town to consider and give input into and consider the benefits of each. We've worked through a number of concepts even to arrive at the three that are in front of you today, which are somewhat similar to one another.
Yeah.
And because of the peculiar shape of the lot, it presents some interesting concepts there. So what you see before you now is really, conforming lots, all having adequate access, and it's approached in something that would allow somewhat of a modular development pattern. In other words, if a single user were interested in using more than one of the lots that are shown at once, that they could easily
Combine,
do that and
sure.
still have access to the others around.
Would the applicant have any interest in preserving the land once he had a final subdivision map, or is that a possibility?
Preserving the entire parcel, you saying?
Just throwing it out as an option.
Oh, yeah,
Is
I
the
wouldn't
applicant
be
aware
able
of
to
that?
speak to that honestly, personally, on their behalf, because, of course, this industrially zoned land and the demand for industrial uses, et cetera, this seems to be, the highest best use for the property, but, again, through the secret process and certainly through an EIS process, you'd be required to look at different alternatives, and this board, if we're acting as the lead agency, would have a lot to say about what alternatives are reasonable to analyze for that.
The reason I ask how this possibly developed, your sketch plans show the sewage treatment plant to be in the southern portion of the property. Okay? And if you're going to develop the north first, there may be a little problem getting the sewage down south.
Yeah, that's
And I think
totally fair.
that should be discussed and discovered, okay?
Yeah, and the point, I think, even more broadly is too, relates to all types of infrastructure, the roadways and this kind of thing. I think there is such a thing, and it would have to be investigated as to what's practical and appropriate here, as using on-site treatment for, more traditional style systems for.
I know you can, because
portion.
most of your sites are 2 acres.
Right, yeah, and all of that would have to be, of course, in accordance with the Suffolk County Department of Health Services requirements for that. But of course, the idea would be to complete that treatment plant and to connect all of the properties in the subdivision.
The treated water effluent would be dictated by the DEC though, right?
Correct, there's a
So, I mean,
speedies permit. that
the
goes along
EIS would have to identify the groundwater flow, and I'm sure that would be taken into consideration. So to have it shown on the map today, may not be, accurate going down the road.
Ink on paper.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Won't be
All right,
Sure.
just follow something else on the water. I know you have to talk to as Stan said, you have to talk to the water supply
Sure.
and to see what might be available. But I should also mention to you that what we've been doing with other subdivisions is requiring irrigation wells on the sites,
I see.
cut down on water use. So I think you got to keep that into consideration. And
Understood.
We'd love to see the effluent water reused for that purpose.
I think the Suffolk County Department of Health Services would have to consider that, but yeah, that's reasonable. If there's some kind of, gray water or something that could be expected to be clean enough for that purpose.
Okay, anything else, any other questions? So, Jeff, so I guess the only other thing for us today is for that type 1 action, the resolution?
Yes, you'd be designated or classifying the application as a type 1 action and directing staff to initiate the 30-day coordination review period.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Baiting Hollow Cottage Condominium, cottage number 5.
Going into the opposite direction, this is, the applicant team is approaching. This is an application to replace an existing cottage with a new single-family house. It's located at 356-5 Oakley Avenue in Baiting Hollow, tax map number 40-1-5. It's a type 2 action under SECRA. The currently is an improved one-story approximately 645 square foot, single-family residence. It's a cottage. Greg has included a couple of photographs of what's there today. And what the applicant is looking at doing is replacing it with a single-family house that would have a 750 square foot basement, first floor and a second floor, each 756 square feet, for a total of 2,268 square feet. The applicant has obtained approval from the Baiting Hollow Cottage Condominium Board, and we have signatures from both the president, vice, and 2 of the board members. They also have Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval. In terms of the setbacks, it will not require any relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The floor plan and elevation show that all the runoff will be captured by gutters and piped into an 8-foot by 4-foot dry well. One of the questions that Greg raised in his staff report and the applicant is prepared to address this afternoon is regarding the method of exportation materials and construction vehicles in the neighborhood. The authority for this application was made back by the zoning board in 1993. There's a resolution that basically set a precedent for any expansion of residents in this condominium map would be established by the planning board, and that you would be the authorizing body for the development within that development area.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Are there two-story homes in the homes?
I did not visit the site, so I can't tell you that. The applicant representative is here, the architect, so he could answer that question for you. And that was everything I have to present. The applicant's architect is present and can answer that question for you, and he can also address the question about how much material would have to leave the site and the construction and phasing of the project.
Good evening. My name is Michael Sedano. I'm the architect for the project. Yes, there is many two-story homes over there, actually. So we're sort of keeping with the character of the area. A lot of people are starting to renovate the homes over there and adding on to them, expanding them. So this is going to be one of the other ones. Actually, I have another project going to be coming in front of the board at a later date that's doing the same thing. One of the concerns that Greg had was access to the site. I just gave Jeff what the contractor was proposing to do. Basically, his concern was how we're going to get rid of all the fill from excavation of the foundation. And we're going to have about 240 yards of fill to be removed from the property. And we're going to be taking it out with 10-wheeler dump trucks. So the applicant shall provide, let's see here. He plans on using a Bobcat with rubber tracks to excavate out for the new foundation, demolition of the existing house. They're going to have a 10-wheel dump truck to truck out the debris from the existing house, making approximately 4 trips. We have also another 10-wheel dump truck on either side of the property in which they will load it directly, removing about 12 loads of fill. Next will be, once the foundation is dug, they will then come in and form out for the foundation. They have about 42 yards of concrete, making about 5 trips with the cement truck.
There's no basement in the home?
No, there is going to be a basement.
No, I
That's
mean, the current home's on a slab?
the current home, if it's, I don't even think it's a slab. It's,
Okay.
yeah, there's really nothing there.
Yeah.
But there is another house in the area that does have a basement. That's how the owner decided to come about doing the basement, was one of the other owners said, hey, I have a basement, and gave him the idea, and now he decided to put one in too. So it is something that's been done over there. So as far as access to the site, I gave you an aerial view of, how to get in there. Basically, they'll go along Oakley Avenue, pull into the site. There's a little dead-end area. He'll probably pull into that and then back down to the site to either with the dump trucks or with the cement trucks or the material. On either side of the property, there's plenty of room to be putting the equipment to make sure everyone's off-site, the cars, everything. Hopefully, they'll be doing this during this winter months, and no one's going to be there. Everyone's already winterized and gone for the season. So if we get approval sooner than later, they'll be digging and getting this done before they come back in the spring.
Is there town water in those roads?
Yes,
There is, okay.
Are you gonna use the existing water
yes.
connection?
There's an
I'm
existing
looking
one.
at the site plan.
I'm sorry?
I'm looking at the site plan. It looks like, is that where you show?
Yeah, that's the existing
That's the
water
existing,
main that's there. We'll terminate and then reconnect it once they're ready. We're gonna put a whole new septic in, that's been approved.
You got Suffolk County Health Department?
Yes, that's already approved.
You got the approval?
Yep. We're putting in a dry well to contain all the runoff.
The stone driveway that you're showing that shows on the plan, is that where the front entrance is going to be?
That's actually the side of the house, but that's where the current driveway is, and that's where it'll stay. They'll have to just clean it up when they're done after.
But that would be then where the front of the house would face that driveway.
No, the front of the house actually faces the cul-de-sac that's there.
The roadway right to the south?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a driveway along the, I'm going to say, the west side of the house. That's an existing driveway.
No?
So he'll park his cars there. He has a little wraparound porch that's on the east side. That will,
Okay, I see with the cul-de-sac. I see what you got.
yeah, we squared it up a little bit with the cul-de-sac a little bit when we designed it.
Okay.
Who's responsible for road maintenance in this community? Is it private?
I guess the condo association would be responsible.
Is there any possible damage to the roads that will be on either the association or this
The-
homeowner,
The
right?
homeowner, the contractor would have to repair whatever road damage is done
Okay.
there.
And I think Jefferson mentioned that the association already signed off on it.
Correct. They
So
gave us their
the
blessings.
community's okay with it. And we do have a resolution for administrative approval today on the agenda. So,
Great.
any other questions from the board? Go ahead, Dick.
Did you supply the town with the design of the exploitation of materials and stuff?
This letter that we just gave you today,
I'm not sure, I didn't sure, I don't know about today.
materials as far as what?
Exploitation of materials?
No, I just gave it to Jeff just now.
We just got it, Dick, so we,
Okay.
I mean, I didn't read it yet either, but they did answer it.
Yeah, we had the mason come there prior to the meeting just to make sure he could get his stuff in, and it wasn't gonna be any issues.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, have a good weekend.
Okay, we do not have any public hearings scheduled today, so we will go on to the resolutions. Jefferson, this first resolution, the applicant who requested this to put the barn up in this buffer, he's aware of the resolution and they're
Yes.
okay with it?
I don't know, I have not spoken to him directly, but I do know that he has a copy of it.
I passed it today. They have excavating equipment and lumber there.
They're ready to go.
So
They're ready to go.
Okay.
Public comments?
I'll move resolution.
Yeah, no, I just want to do public
Okay,
comments
I'm sorry.
first. Any public comments on the resolutions? Anyone? Any comments? Okay, now we'll go.
I'll move resolution 111 for 794 Reeves Avenue to allow the construction of a 40 by 60 storage barn. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 111, 794 Reeves Avenue with conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved.
Move resolution number 112 for Cowden Industrial Subdivision, classifying a major subdivision as a type 1 action, so moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 112 Calverton Industrial Subdivision, type 1 action under SECRA. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
Move resolution 113, Bating Hollow Cottage condominium number 5. granting administrative approval for site plan application.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 113, Bating Hollow Cottage Condominium Administrative Approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. Okay, any public comments on any matter in front of the planning board? Anyone from the public, any comments today? Jeff?
Good afternoon. Jeff Seaman, as consultant on the Breezy Hill secret process. I just want to advise the board, I know that there is a hearing to be reopened again on December the 2nd. However, yesterday, by receipt of email from Nick Romero of New York State DEC, please let me read this to you first, and then I'll explain why I'm here. Good morning, Jeff. For your information, I have attached a recent notice of violation we sent out to the property owners and their attorney for additional dumping that we observed at the property. We will be pursuing additional action against the respondents, requiring full cleanup and removal of the wastes there. The notice of violation was provided to their home/office address and their attorney, parentheses, La Squadro, close parenthesis, via hard mail and email, but I have not heard back from either party. Nick Romero, Environmental Engineer, Division of Materials Management. I'll provide the board with the second notice of violation. It does identify the following reasons: operation of a solid waste management facility without a permit, unauthorized disposal of solid waste, and a violation of Attachment A, compliance schedule of the consent order, which was under the violation 1. Knowing that seeker is always under a time clock, if it's approved by the board, I'd like to submit this as part of my comments from November 4th, which I was unaware of this situation until this evening.
Okay, absolutely. We'll make that part of the record. Just two questions. One, how long was that letter issued, and how much time has passed since they haven't heard?
So the notice of violation was observed on September the 22nd. So there was additional dumping that they witnessed, the DEC Enforcement
Right.
Bureau, on September 22nd, 2021. The notice of violation was sent out certified mail, return receipt requested, and it is dated October the 26th. And it was signed by Saeed Rahman, who's the head of the Materials Division, on 10/26.
So that violation was issued prior to our meeting when they were here last month?
That's correct. Whether or not it was received, I can't state that. However, the applicant's consultants had emailed me after the meeting asking for some clarification in the comments that I had made, and their response to the issues that were raised at the hearing will be provided to the lead agency in the form of a letter, and that letter I expect before the end of this month, so that the board would have it prior to, excuse me, the December 2nd meeting, so you'll have some additional information. I do not know whether or not their consultants are aware of the second violation either.
Okay, so can we reach out to them, and do you have a copy of the
I
violation?
have everything here, which I'll...
So we'll make it part of the record, and I guess I'll ask, is this yours, Jeff, or Greg's? Greg, can we ask Greg to make sure that he gets
Sure,
it
I
to
can
him, and they
provide
acknowledge receiving it?
Yes, as lead agency, you're responsible to provide all comments. That's why it was my understanding the hearing was still open, I guess, and certainly the comment period to the EIS is open.
Right.
So I can provide this to you, you can officially transmit it to them as early as tomorrow, and then they'll have this information in addition to the comments they've already received, and perhaps they can address it on the December 2nd meeting or with this letter they're preparing prior to that date.
Okay.
Jeff, this is a long-standing violation, I think, right?
Well, there's a longstanding violation that goes back to, I think it is March 21st, 2018 is when the stipulation
Longstanding,
agreement was
yeah.
signed. So the violation preceded that. Also recognize that DEC has claimed that there's been additional dumping.
Yeah, right.
Which is itself a town violation. It's illegal to dump
Just wondering how,
solid waste.
why should we continue this secret resolution and hearing while all this stuff are outstanding?
I,
It doesn't seem to make any sense to
I
me.
can't answer that.
I think
Perhaps-
we would need to be guided by counsel on that.
Yes,
What the obligation is.
I would agree, because they are dealing with DEC on violations. They have signed a stipulation agreement and paid a penalty. This is a second notice, and DEC, I think, is reaching out to me to ask maybe if we had heard anything from the applicants, because it's very unusual for anyone not to respond
Right.
to a DEC notice of violation, and it's a second violation. So I have not responded directly to the DEC with exception of thanking them for the information, but without any, decision on behalf of this board on how to pursue them under SEQR. My gut feeling is I would not want to interrupt the SEQR process so that this board is protected against an Article 78 challenge by the applicant, that you failed to continue to process their application, even though they're in violation with another agency.
Jeff, do you know?
Way back when, we had asked the petitioner to get rid of that, after the first violation, to get rid of the stuff that he had in there. Remember, I'd asked you this at the last meeting?
Yes, that's
And you were
correct.
unsure, but it was still there. And then the neighbors came in and said, this guy's dumping at night, weekends, so this justifies all their comments that he continues to do what he wants. He's probably left that one that we found a year or so ago. He's left that alone, so it looks like he hasn't done anything.
Well, DEC, in their consent order, had required all the material to be removed, which was part of the schedule that they set forth back on that March 2018 date. So this has been going on for a while. And under DEC, terminology, one would actually now classify the site as a landfill, because that's basically what it is. The material has not been removed.
Jeff, do you know how much more was brought in and what was brought in?
I don't. I can ask the DEC for more details on what was brought in and how much. I'm only inspecting the property from the fence line. I'm not entering it for, obvious reasons. And I don't know even whether the material that had been dumped on the 21st has since been removed. I can only attest to what I've been witness to really since the beginning of the process, which is still there.
I had asked about the composition, and no one knew the composition of what was there. I remember that specifically now. Whether the DEC has changed that now, it would be interesting to find out.
Well, I
Maybe we
know
can
that-
put that on the list of things for Greg to ask.
And their DEC solid waste application is likely not to move forward through the review process until the violations are cleared up to the satisfaction of DEC. And even after the material is removed, under a cleanup process with DEC, you need to have an engineer's certification, you need to provide test pit information. It's not over just because the material's been taken off-site. As I said in the last hearing, documentation needs to be provided. I've requested that information be provided to this board that basically shows a cradle-to-grave disposal mechanism that the material was safely disposed of and by whom. So they have a large hill to climb here.
Is the house that's there occupied? Is there someone lives there?
I do not know, but I don't believe it is. All the gates are closed, and I think it's basically abandoned.
What is Nelson Pope's position in this?
Well, they're the preparers of the EIS, and that's why I wanted to bring this forward today, so that the planning department, who has the responsibility to transmit this information to them, can provide that to them in a timely manner. I know that Nelson and Pope was retained to go out and do sampling of the material that's there, as well as groundwater sampling. That was all included as part of their EIS process.
You said they did sample the material?
They did sample the material, and some of it has been determined by the DEC that is required to go to a disposal facility, such as a landfill. Other piles would meet the litmus test of being appropriate to be processed as a recyclable debris. Maybe that wasn't clear, but I had placed that in my comments back in September and then again earlier this month. So they have segregated these piles, but irrespective of that, the DEC wants all the material off the site. The material that's considered inappropriate for reuse would likely go to a landfill, and the material that could be recycled has to go to an approved recycling facility to be recycled. They will not allow the applicant to simply wait until they get a permit and recycle it on site. And that's where we are.
All right, thank you, Jeff, for the information. We will accept it, and we'll ask either Jefferson or Greg to make contact with the applicant and document that contact and put it as part of the record that they acknowledge receiving it, or Greg can pass it along and they receive it. Let's make it all part of the record.
Yes. And
Question
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I know this wasn't really on the agenda.
No,
and,
it's fine, it's very
I'd like to
important.
wish you all a great Thanksgiving, and Stan,
You as well.
the best of luck in your
Thank you.
retirement. It's been wonderful. Dick, you also. I've learned a great deal from both of you gentlemen, and thank you for that opportunity to get to know each of you.
Thank you. Dick, I do have a question, if you could answer for us. Would it be appropriate, or what would be proper, given a situation like this, could we hold the secret process open until the DEC is satisfied on these violations?
Since I'm not going to be the person to live with the consequences of that answer, I don't think it's really correct for me to offer that opinion today.
Okay,
Your hearing is open. You can certainly keep your hearing open until you feel that all of the facts you need to have are before you to close the hearing.
okay.
And that not being resolved, to my mind, would be a critical component to that decision.
Okay. I would just suggest, Jefferson, that you prepare, bring up to speed the new attorney for the next meeting, because this is gonna come up again, and, so that she has time to research it and, offer a formal opinion to the board.
Yeah, and we'll send this stuff, certified return receipt requests, to both the attorney for Sheila Squadro and also to Chick Voorhees, so they both are prepared for the next meeting.
Right. But
Jeffrey, are
it's-
you going to be here for the next meeting?
But as far as our new attorney,
Yeah, yeah,
we'd
and-
like to
and-
get
and-
her
yeah.
up to speed.
Yep.
And the question that we just asked, let her, provide an opinion to the board on that as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay? All right, thank you.
Jeffrey and I will consult with her and make sure we're all up to speed.
Hey, Dick, by the way, your answer was actually yes, you just didn't say the three letters.
We have
He's
to
an
prepare.
attorney, what do you want?
So, all right, any other public comments on any matter?
I'd just like to take this opportunity, we're losing not one person today, two people today, both Stan Carey and Richard Ehlers. Both of you have provided the town with extensive knowledge and experience that it's going to be hard to replace. And I don't mean that to any disrespect or offense to Joan, but I got to tell you, I've been doing this for as long as I have, to have such a camaraderie and teamwork effort with the planning board and Richard, it's been a very positive experience. And again, that's going to be lost, and you're going to be sorely missed. But Stan, you're going to be missed from this board, but I'm not taking you off any of the committees for the comp plan, so don't think you're going to get off the hook that easily.
All right.
Jeff, from
Thank
what
you.
you're describing here, it sounds like you're the weak link. Just kidding.
Thanks, Jeff, that's much appreciated. We'll get to some more of this in the closing comments, but if there are any other public comments, please come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barbara Blass. I live in Jamesport. I was actually going to submit some comments on the industrial subdivision, but I think I'll save them for another time. I had a follow-up question on something that Mr. Seaman said with respect to Breezy Hill. In addition to the DEC violation, it was referenced that there is town law that's being violated in the sense that there is illegal dumping at the site, and I was just wondering if this board would consider pursuing an enforcement action on behalf of the town for that additional violation that was mentioned. But I do have something in a broader sense, if you'd consider these comments. The hamlet of Calverton has yet another industrial proposal in its midst. Let's recap. We have approximately 600 developable acres at Calverton which permit industrial uses. We have seen a proposal for 1 million square feet of industrial development on this site and a conceptual rendering for 10 million square feet of industrial space inside the fence within the Calverton hamlet. HK Ventures has proposed close to 500,000 square feet of industrial space west of this site within the hamlet of Calverton. You have a solid waste processing facility, specifically a C&D recycling operation within the hamlet of Calverton. There are 660 acres of commercial solar utility facilities in the hamlet of Calverton. The application presented to you today proposes to subdivide 135 acres of land in active agricultural production, with 113 described as prime ag soils, into 38 lots in the Industrial A and Riverfront Corridor zoning use districts. All this is happening in the hamlet of Calverton. All of this is happening while the town is undergoing a comprehensive plan update, which by its very nature is an exercise in reviewing existing land use patterns and current zoning to see whether they still reflect the vision of the community and the overall economic goals of the town, both of which were set about 20 years ago in the context of the current plan. There have been significant potential environmental impacts identified for every one of these projects within the Calverton hamlet, those that I mentioned. The delivery of adequate and clean potable water has been and continues to be an issue. From a planning perspective, please ask yourselves if all of this makes sense to you to do at this time. And if it doesn't, what are you prepared to do about it? Could you permit me a moment to say a few words on a personal note? From my humble vantage point and my interaction with U.S. Chair of the Planning Board, Mr. Carey, I'd like to say that I've observed you to be nothing more than a man of integrity, knowledgeable, professional, fair, very thorough, and you never shied away from asking the difficult questions. You embraced community participation, which in this day and age is really quite noteworthy. I want to thank you for all of your service. I congratulate you, wish you well on your retirement, and Riverhead will sorely miss you.
Thank you.
Dick, we spent many years, good, bad, and ugly. I have tremendous respect for you and learned so very much from you, and I thank you for all that you have done, not only here, but for me personally and for the town in general. Thank you, and I wish you luck in your retirement as well. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Just for myself, I'd just like to say it has been a pleasure serving on this board. I really enjoyed serving the community. I hope that I made a positive impact and left my mark here for people to carry forward. But again, it's been a pleasure working with everybody, serving the town, board members, planning staff. So I will miss everyone. I'll still be around town and everything, but I'll miss everyone. But for Dick, Dick has been around much longer than me. I'd just like to recognize Dick here in a much bigger way for all of his expertise in planning and in guiding the town through many years of development in this board. So Dick, on behalf of the board, I would just like to say thank you for all your years of service. And I learned a lot from you. I'm sure everybody has, and we will, and the town will sorely miss you. Thank you very much.
that before.
It's about 40 years ago that I first came into this room, and I see Pete Danowski in the back, and he was one of the people with me in that journey starting back then. This board, your current board, you're all very good public citizens. And it's been my pleasure to work with planning boards over the years who have been good public citizens. Collegiality, not necessarily always agreement, but respect, courtesy, and collegiality have been the hallmark of the planning boards in Riverhead. And I think it's due to the leadership. We've had 4 chairmen during my 40 years. Miles Fairley, Barbara, Dick, and Stan. Each of those individuals, completely different people, completely different backgrounds, all wonderful to work with and all a gift to the community, but all different. And as their attorney, you'd go in and you'd think, okay, I sort of know what the issue's going to be here, and you'd learn a whole new way of looking at something. And I'll add Ed to that list. I learned another view from Ed, the Bayman view, the workaday view. There's the esoteric view. Barbara, a little more the, pie in the sky view. I mean, no offense, but what if, And all of these things come together to make a plan. Now, people, when they hear you work for the planning board, they think, oh dear, what are these people going to do to me? But if we don't plan, and plan isn't just deciding where the curb cut goes, it's what do we see Riverhead, what do we see Long Island? I was trying to explain to somebody today the end of the county legislature and the end of the Board of Supervisors in 1960 and the county legislature and how that changed Riverhead from being 1 in 10 votes to being half of 1 in 20 votes. Changed the entire world for Riverhead. Riverhead didn't have a clue what was going on when that happened. Passed us right by. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to serve. I do want to mention a few names of those who I enjoyed serving with. Bob Hodge. I learned a lot about Pittsburgh and other zoning, but again, a completely different view from a big city. Maury Simmel, the agricultural community. And finally, just want to mention some of the attorneys, Pete, Alan Smith, Charlie Cuddy, Charlie Raffi, Henry Sackstein. Every time somebody stood up here, I had the opportunity to watch how it went. And you'll learn so much from watching and listening. Pat Torme, Miles Fairley, that was a whole different world at that time. But anyway, it's really been wonderful to work here. I firmly believe that you should leave when you're still on your game, so to speak. And so I'm looking forward to retirement. I'm going to cease the active practice of law as of the end of this next month and stay in Riverhead and enjoy Peconic Bay and all it has to offer. So thank you again, and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you. Okay. Minutes of November 4th, 2021 for approval.
So moved.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of November 4th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any other business for the planning board? Anyone else?
A nice Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep.
Happy
Motion to
Thanksgiving
adjourn.
to all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
To all, a good night.
There you go.
It's been great, Dick. I wish you well with your family and